Hello, beautiful soul of Libra. Have you ever felt like a message was sent just for you, but only if you were willing to listen? If you're watching this right now, then let me be clear, this is not a coincidence. This moment is divinely timed. This is not just another horoscope reading. This is a sacred transmission from the universe, and it carries a vibration so urgent, so precise, that it could only reach you today. You were not led here by chance. You were called. You were summoned. Something in your energy signaled the cosmos that you're finally ready to hear a truth that has been waiting patiently behind the curtain of your daily distractions. And now that you're here, Libra, everything is about to shift. This message is a soft whisper wrapped in thunder. It carries healing, clarity, and something even more powerful, liberation. Because lately, you've sensed it, haven't you? A quiet imbalance. A presence near you that drains your light while pretending to reflect it. Someone who once offered affection, but whose eyes flickered with envy. Perhaps you've tried to keep the peace, as Libras often do, balancing everyone else's emotions while ignoring your own intuition. But not anymore. Today, justice begins within. And that's why you're here. At Zodiac Whisper Tarot, we don't believe in random. We believe in resonance. If this reading found you, it's because your soul is calling for realignment, your truth is ready to be reclaimed. This reading is not for the faint-hearted. It's not for those who cling to illusions. It's for those who are brave enough to look behind the mask, to name what no longer serves them, and to take that first sacred step back home to themselves. Libra, today you walk the path of sacred separation, shedding what no longer matches your frequency. The number guiding us today is 22, the master builder in numerology. This number doesn't just speak of potential, it demands action, transformation, reconstruction of the soul. And that's what this message will guide you through. Now, before we dive deeper, I want to pause and thank you. Truly. Let me take a moment to express my heartfelt gratitude for your presence here. Every like you share, every comment you leave, every moment you spend here with us helps build this spiritual space. Your energy doesn't just support this channel, it expands it, allowing us to continue bringing transformational messages into your life and others. So thank you from the bottom of my heart for being part of this journey. And trust me when I say this, you'll want to stay until the very last minute of this video. What the universe is about to reveal isn't just beautiful, it's revolutionary. It's deeply personal. And it's exactly what your soul has been waiting to remember. Now tell me, my loyal Libras. What happened in your heart that led you here today? Let's find out together. Sometimes, the most piercing truths don't arrive in thunder, they unfold in silence. The kind of silence that grows in your chest, tightens your breath, and leaves you wondering why a certain person's presence always drains more than it gives. You felt it, haven't you? That subtle emotional imbalance. That moment when a warm smile felt just a little too rehearsed. Or when someone's words comforted you, but their eyes spoke another language entirely. Today, we're not here to create drama, we're here to unravel the truth you've already felt in your bones. This part of your journey is not about labeling anyone as the enemy, but about acknowledging how much of your light you've dimmed to maintain a relationship that only ever felt one-sided. There may be someone close to you, a woman, a friend, a figure who once offered guidance or companionship, whose affection felt sincere, yet left you more confused than uplifted. That's no accident. And it's no longer invisible. Energetically, you are starting to rise above her frequency, and that shift makes everything she's tried to disguise begin to crack. What we're exploring here is the quiet art of manipulation disguised as care. When someone speaks to you softly, but their energy secretly competes with yours. When they offer advice, but it's threaded with tiny doubts meant to pull you back. This kind of envy doesn't scream, it whispers through concern, cloaks itself in, just trying to help, and tells you to play small while praising your potential. And Libra, you've had enough of that, haven't you? Astrologically, the moon entering Cancer today makes these emotional undercurrents even more vivid. Cancer energy heightens your emotional intuition, while your Libra nature seeks harmony. But harmony is not peace when it's built on false balance. It's time to question, have I been keeping the scales steady at the cost of my soul? The energy of June 20th is stirring the waters of truth, not to drown you in discomfort, but to cleanse what you've tried too hard to ignore. In the tarot spread for this phase, the reverse justice card appears alongside the Three of Swords, a message that can no longer be softened. This isn't about punishment, it's about restoration. When justice is reversed, it points to an imbalance that's been tolerated for too long. It's not about whether you're right or wrong, it's about whether your truth has space to exist. And with the Three of Swords, we know the cost of silence has been heavy. This is emotional betrayal, the kind that doesn't leave bruises, but teaches you to second-guess your own intuition. And yet, the number 22 appears not as a warning, but as a divine blueprint. In numerology, 22 is the master builder. It asks you to dismantle the false foundations and rebuild with integrity. You are not being broken, Libra. You're being given the sacred tools to build a reality that finally honors your softness without making you vulnerable to exploitation. This isn't about turning cold or shutting down. This is about seeing clearly and choosing wisely. You don't need to confront or blame. You simply need to reclaim your space, step back from energy that feeds on your uncertainty, and allow the natural laws of balance to realign themselves. As the old saying goes, not all who smile are rooting for you. And that's okay. Not everyone can walk the sacred part of the path with you. Just remember, you are allowed to protect your heart. You are allowed to walk away from subtle betrayal, even if no one else sees it. You are not required to justify your peace to those who only understood you when you were struggling. Let your peace be the answer. Let your clarity be the closure. And trust that those who are meant to love you genuinely will never make you shrink to stay beside them. There are moments in life when everything around us seems to fall into a quiet hush, not because the world has paused, but because something deep within is shifting. If you've been feeling unusually tired, emotionally numb, or suddenly pulled away from people and places that once felt familiar, you are not breaking, you are being realigned. And what you're sensing isn't chaos, it's clarity forming beneath the surface. It's the universe gently lowering the volume of everything around you so that you can finally hear the soft but certain voice within. This part of your journey isn't loud. It doesn't demand fireworks or dramatic exits. It asks something far more powerful, it asks for stillness. Because you've already heard the message, haven't you? Not through words, but through the weariness in your bones, the disconnection you've been quietly carrying. For too long, you've been surrounded by situations or people that require you to explain, to overextend, to tolerate. But there comes a time when your soul no longer wants to be convincing. It simply wants to be understood, and more than that, protected. The High Priestess reversed appears now to remind you that you've known the truth for a while. Maybe you pushed it aside because you didn't want to disrupt the peace, or because the fear of stepping into the unknown seemed heavier than the discomfort you already knew. But avoidance never leads to peace, it only postpones the inevitable clarity. When intuition is ignored long enough, the body starts to speak. The fatigue, the tension, the feeling of being stuck, these are not signs of failure, they're signs that your spirit has been whispering for too long without being heard. Accompanying her is the Eight of Cups, a card that symbolizes one of the bravest decisions we can make, the quiet choice to walk away. Not out of anger. Not out of bitterness. But out of self-respect. Sometimes, you don't need to slam the door. You don't even need to explain why. You just need to step out of a space where your light keeps getting dimmed, even if no one else understands the decision. You're not abandoning anything. You're returning to yourself. Energetically, this is a moment of divine untangling. Like threads that have been knotted for too long, certain relationships, beliefs, or responsibilities are being loosened, not to punish you, but to free you. When the universe senses that you've outgrown your surroundings, it doesn't always remove the people, it removes your attachment to their approval. You may notice that conversations no longer hold meaning, that once comfortable spaces now feel heavy. This is protection, not punishment. It's the unseen guidance that nudges you out of alignment with what no longer serves you so that you can make space for what does. And if you're wondering whether it's selfish to want peace, the answer is no. In fact, sometimes the most generous thing you can do is protect your energy so that you can return to the world whole. Remember, even the most sacred scriptures remind us, be still, and know. There's wisdom in that stillness. You don't always have to fight. You don't always have to prove. Sometimes, you just have to breathe, listen, and let go. Let this be the moment you allow what no longer fits to gently fall away. No resistance. No guilt. Just the soft knowing that you're allowed to want something more, even if you can't fully explain it yet. The universe understands what your heart hasn't said out loud, and it's already clearing the path ahead, so you can walk forward without needing to look back. Some forms of exhaustion don't come from lack of rest, they come from carrying too much of what was never yours to hold. When you've spent days, months, maybe even years quietly absorbing tension to keep the peace, your body remembers. And now, it's speaking louder than your mind. That dull pressure in your chest, the butterflies that feel more like knots in your stomach, the scattered thoughts that circle before sleep, all of it is your nervous system waving a gentle flag. It's time to heal from the inside out. What you're experiencing is not weakness. It's a sign of just how strong you've had to be. But strength isn't about tolerating discomfort endlessly, it's about knowing when to return to yourself and say, enough. And healing doesn't always look like grand gestures or big transformations. Sometimes, healing looks like celery juice in the morning. Sometimes, it's saying no without explanation. Sometimes, it's 5 quiet minutes with your hand over your heart, remembering that you matter even when no one is watching. The energy around you right now is ripe for internal repair. Astrologically, Libra is ruled by Venus, a planet deeply connected to balance, grace, and the beauty of stillness. Yet as much as Libra seeks harmony, it often comes at the cost of self-sacrifice. This moment, though, is different. This isn't about keeping the scale level for others. It's about calibrating your own center of peace. Not the kind of peace that comes from others behaving the way you want them to, but the kind that exists within you, regardless of what's happening outside. There's power in pausing. Not just to rest, but to reflect on the silent agreements you've made, like tolerating treatment that drains you, or prioritizing relationships that ask you to shrink in order to be loved. One of the most healing actions you can take now is to identify those silent contracts and cancel them. A simple practice I love: write down the names of 3 people who, when you think of them, you feel smaller, heavier, or confused. Beneath each name, write this: I return your energy to you. I release what is not mine. You don't need to send it. You don't need to confront anyone. You only need to let go. On a physical level, support your healing by choosing foods that soothe rather than stimulate. Your stomach is often where unspoken feelings go to hide. Think gentle, grounding nourishment: warm oats with chia seeds, lavender tea before bed, a slice of ginger or a splash of lemon in your water. You are not trying to fix yourself. You are simply offering your body what it has long craved: care without conditions. As for energy, color therapy can be an underrated ally. Today, the soft rose of pink sapphire and the glow of moonlit silver resonate with your intuitive field. These colors invite you to trust what you feel, even if it isn't logical, to make space for tenderness, and to restore the equilibrium between your heart and your mind. When you surround yourself with shades that speak to your emotional intelligence, you'll find decisions become clearer and your voice stronger, not louder, but truer. And if you've ever wondered whether you're allowed to choose peace when others still expect your struggle, yes, you are. Even scripture reminds us that we were never meant to carry what isn't ours. That quiet whisper you hear? The one nudging you to take a step back, to rest, to soften. It's not laziness. It's wisdom. It's your spirit reminding you that real peace isn't handed to you. It's something you reclaim, one deep breath at a time. It often begins as longing. The quiet hope that someone might come along and finally see you, not just the version you present to the world, but the real you. The tired you. The dreaming you. The one who tries so hard to be everything for everyone, but deep down just wants to be loved for simply being. That kind of desire is human, Libra. But sometimes, without realizing it, we turn that beautiful longing into pressure. We convince ourselves that love must arrive now, fix us, complete us, and hold us together when we no longer can. But love, the kind you deserve, was never meant to feel like exhaustion. It wasn't designed to make you question your worth or compromise your softness in exchange for attention. True love doesn't rush. It doesn't perform. It doesn't demand that you shrink to fit inside someone else's comfort zone. And it certainly doesn't ask you to earn it by sacrificing your peace. Right now, the Lover's card paired with Temperance brings a powerful message. The love that's coming already circling around you will not feel like chaos disguised as chemistry. It will feel like alignment. Like the quiet knowing that you don't need to pretend, perform, or panic to be held. But to receive that kind of love, you must first choose yourself. Not in a loud, rebellious way. In a gentle, consistent way that says, I no longer accept less than what reflects who I'm becoming. This is where the energy of the number 2 in numerology becomes important. 2 is not about halves needing to be whole. It's about resonance mirroring. It teaches us that the healthiest relationships don't complete us, they complement us. They meet us in the middle, not to take over our path, but to walk beside us. You are not here to be saved. You are here to be seen. And the first person who must see you is you. Think of all the times you gave your heart to someone and then lost parts of yourself trying to keep them close. That wasn't love failing you. That was love trying to teach you what it's not. The kind of love that will last, the kind that nourishes instead of depletes, won't come when you're trying to fill a void. It will come when you've honored your own wholeness so deeply that anything less becomes unrecognizable. And yes, it's okay to want companionship. We were created to connect. But connection without mutual care isn't love, it's attachment. And attachment, when rooted in fear, will always wear you down. You deserve more than that. You deserve a love that rises with you, not one that holds you down out of insecurity. You deserve someone who sees your strength and doesn't feel threatened, but inspired. Someone who doesn't try to change you, but celebrates your becoming. Even in spiritual teachings, we are reminded that love is patient, and that there's beauty in timing, not in forcing. You are not late. You are right on time for the kind of love that honors both your spirit and your boundaries. You are not too much. You are not too soft. You are not too complicated. You are a mirror for the love you will soon receive, and it will not ask you to prove yourself first. If you need to, say it aloud or write it down. I don't need love to feel enough. I am enough, and from that place I choose love. Repeat it like a promise. Like a prayer. Like a quiet vow to never abandon yourself again for the illusion of being chosen. Because from this moment on, you choose you. And that choice changes everything. Maybe lately, you've been waking up and feeling like something is missing, but not in a dramatic or obvious way. It's more like a quiet question that lingers just beneath the surface of your day. Is this really what I'm meant to do? If your job feels like it takes more than it gives, if your energy leaves you before noon, or if your calendar is full but your heart is not, then this is your moment to pause and realign. Because fulfillment isn't about staying busy, it's about moving with purpose. Libra, as someone ruled by Venus, you're wired for balance, beauty, and integrity. But sometimes, your desire to be dependable and pleasing can pull you into roles or responsibilities that no longer reflect who you're becoming. The truth is, you're allowed to change your mind. You're allowed to outgrow the dream you once chased, especially if that dream wasn't even yours to begin with. Ask yourself gently, am I still doing this because it lights something in me, or because it's expected of me? And more importantly, does it honor the season I'm in now? The King of Swords in your reading brings the energy of mental clarity and emotional detachment, not coldness, but discernment. It invites you to think about your career not just as a path, but as a reflection of your values. It asks, is what you're doing sustainable not just financially, but emotionally and spiritually? Coupled with the Six of Pentacles, this message becomes clearer. There's a difference between giving generously and giving to depletion. Between sharing your gifts and spending your strength. You are meant to offer, not overfunction. To contribute, not collapse. Money, too, is energy. And how you use it speaks volumes about how you feel about yourself. Are you holding on too tightly, afraid of lack? Or are you scattering it toward things and people that don't return your investment? It's not about being perfect with budgeting. It's about being intentional. One simple check-in: does this purchase support my peace or just numb my discomfort? When you align your financial choices with your inner values, abundance flows more naturally, not because you're chasing it, but because you've made space for it. Sometimes, the most radical thing you can do is stop working for approval and start working from alignment. That might mean revisiting your long-term goals and shifting your definition of success. It could be as small as carving out time for a side project that lights you up, or as big as considering a career pivot that no one expects but your soul's been craving. Either way, it begins with giving yourself permission to be honest. Even wisdom found in scripture echoes this truth. You're not here to store treasures where they rust, but to build a life rooted in meaning. Productivity without purpose eventually leads to burnout. But small steps taken with clarity, those create momentum that sustains. Let this be the moment you stop pouring yourself into places that don't pour back. Let this be the season you trust that ease can be just as valuable as effort, and that your value isn't tied to how much you do but how true you are to yourself in the doing. If something inside you is whispering for a shift, listen. That whisper is your compass. It's not reckless. It's real. And your life will thank you for following it. And now, as we gently arrive at the closing of today's message, I want you to take one more breath with minute just to ground yourself, but to honor how far you've come in just the past few minutes. You listened. You opened your heart. You allowed yourself to reflect deeply on things that may have been quietly aching beneath the surface. And whether you're fully ready to take action or just beginning to acknowledge your truth, that in itself is courage. That in itself is healing. You see, transformation doesn't always begin with grand gestures. More often, it begins right here in stillness, in softness, in the sacred moment when you say to yourself, I want more than this and I believe I was made for more. The universe is not asking you to rush. It's asking you to notice. To pay attention to the subtle shifts inside you. To follow those quiet nudges. Because what if this season isn't about proving your worth, but about reclaiming your energy? What if you stopped chasing love, validation, or stability and started choosing what truly reflects your growth, your joy, your peace? Libra, today's reading has asked you to be brave in many forms, to look at the hidden truths in your relationships, to walk away from what no longer supports your light, to care for yourself without guilt, to love with fullness not fear, and to redesign the way you work and give, so your life no longer feels like a constant compromise. Which one of those areas speaks to you most deeply right now? Which message stirred something in your chest that you haven't yet dared to voice? I'd love for you to share it in the comments below, because speaking it out loud is the first act of personal power. And this space, Zodiac Whisper Tarot, was created for souls like yours to feel seen, supported, and understood. And let me ask you something else. What would happen if you really believed that change is not just possible, but inevitable the moment you say yes to it? What would shift in your life if you started each morning with the question, what do I need to let go of so I can rise? Or maybe even simpler, what does peace feel like and how can I choose more of it today? These aren't just poetic thoughts. These are soul instructions. And I believe, with all my heart, that you are ready to begin living them. Your path doesn't have to be loud. It just has to be yours. So whatever insight touched you today, let it live with you a little longer. Journal about it. Walk with it. Meditate with it. Whisper it to yourself before bed. Because small spiritual practices done with intention will always carry more weight than big, dramatic changes made from fear. Let this video be your permission slip to slow down, to say no when needed, and to start creating a life that feels less like survival and more like alignment. Thank you, truly, for spending your time and energy with me today. Thank you for allowing me to guide you, even just for a moment, back to yourself. Every like, every comment, every subscription you share is not just a digital gesture, it's a ripple of gratitude that allows Zodiac Whisper Tarot to keep growing, to keep reaching those who need it most. So if this message resonated with you, please let me know below. What was your biggest takeaway? What shift are you ready to make? What truth are you finally ready to claim? If you haven't yet, make sure to hit that subscribe button, tap the like, and share this reading with someone who might need to hear it too. Because healing spreads faster when we walk together. And I promise you, Libra, this is only the beginning. The life that's waiting for you, it's not somewhere far off. It's right here, just a few brave choices away. You're not behind. You're exactly where you're meant to be. And I'll be here, at Zodiac Whisper Tarot, every step of the way, whispering reminders from the stars back to your soul. Until next time, stay open, stay grounded, and above all, stay true.